Hi everyone, I'm the Shadow of the Hawk, and welcome back to my channel. Or if you're new here, what the fuck are you doing here? No, jokes aside, if you are here and you're sitting back and joining the conversation, thank you very much for doing so. If you couldn't tell by the title, today we are going to be talking about the Unsullied versus the Spartans. Now, real talk, this is not my topic. I'm stealing this from a YouTube channel that is significantly better than me called The History of Everything. You should be seeing the channel popping up here. You should be also seeing their link down in the description below. Really good channel, really solid people. Stakuyi and Gabby are amazing people, make really good content. I love all of their stuff about like specifically they're like not necessarily Gabby's, but Stakuyi's videos on Latin America, its history, its current politics. Really eye-opening stuff. So go check them out after you're done with the video. But so one of his shorts from a year ago popped up in my feed. Takuyi, not Gabby, and it came up, and it was basically who would win, the Unsullied or the Spartans, because there's a noticeable similarity between the two. Both make use of long spears and shields. Both are vague, but well, I mean, one is Hellenistic, the other is vaguely Hellenistic, and both are individuals who, from near birth, are destined to be soldiers and are renowned for being the greatest soldiers in the known world. However, there are very key differences that I'll be going into before I discuss who would win, the Unsullied or the Spartans. Now, I'm going to break down each of those into three different categories. Who would win in a fight, or a one on one fight, a duel? Who would win in a fight, being, you got a group of Spartans and a group of Unsullied, and then you have a group of, and then you have a battle where you actually have mass organization, mass tactics of only specifically Spartans and Unsullied. Because the term Spartan is a very specific term. Technically speaking, we would be referring to the term Spartiate, as that is a person from the city of Sparta, the upper class of Sparta. What am I talking about? What am I rambling about? Well, let's get into the specifics. So, Spartan would denote being of the city of Sparta, which was the capital of the kingdom of Laconia, which was the hegemon of the Peloponnesian League. Right there, you have a massive layer of things to consider. When people think Spartan, though, they typically think of the Spartiate, the ruling aristocracy, the warrior aristocracy of the city of Sparta. I need to get into a deep dive of how Spartan society works, or excuse me, Laconian society works. See, Laconian society is built upon the Gila population. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. Basically, a mix, someone who's kind of stuck between either slavery or peasanthood. All the same, you are owned by the state. You exist for the state, you produce for the state, and you have no freedom. You do what the state says, you die when the state says, etc. This population outnumbered the city of Sparta at minimum 7-1. Now, that's not accounting for various allies and stuff like that, but if the Perioikoi, the Scutari, and then the various allies of these Kingdom of Laconia, like I believe like Argos and Thebes. Argos may have been a rival. No, Argos was a rival. There's another like trade city that's like right there between Athens and Sparta, and I'm trying to remember their name. They kicked off the Peloponnesian War. I can't remember for the life of me who they were. But so if the Spartans were to ever have to fight all their allies, they would lose due to sheer numbers. So they're constantly having to keep an eye on the Gila population. The next up are the Perioikoi. Perioikoi. The word will be up on screen right now because I am struggling to pronounce that because I am not Greek. These are basically your sort of freedmen. You're not really free in Spartan society, even if you're a Spartiate, for reasons I'll get into. But these are like the people who would be trusted with the more skilled labor, like blacksmithing, textile making, maybe accounting for their Spartiate masters, etc. The tier after that, you have the Spartiates. These are the I'm going to describe these, and then I'm going to break down what each of these words specifically means. But these are the warrior class, eugenics bred super soldiers of the Greek world. The Spartiates engaged in eugenics to create the perfect soldier, the perfect warrior class, in order to effectively put down. We've got this massive slave population. We need one of our guys to be worth 30 of theirs, so we're going to make the greatest warrior possible. And they did this by only allowing the genetically firm. If you were born with any sort of like noticeable defects, if by the time you were like 5 or 7 years old you were noticeably not good in any way, shape, or form, you got killed. You got tossed off a cliff, or you got left in the forest for wolves. You were dead. You do not get to live. And then you spend that time to the age of 30 being trained as a warrior before you're ever allowed to interact with civilized society. You get married at, I believe, like 25 or something like that, but you're rarely ever allowed to see your wife, which is where a lot of the gay sex comes in. Yeah, it's weird. And they don't even have the excuse the Athenians have of when it's off the pier, there's no such thing as queer. Like they're just Yugogi. It's fun. But so they would spend most of their lives being soldiers, being groomed, being trained, being conditioned to being soldiers. Also, fun fact: Sparta actually had better suffrage for women because they had no men to manage the city. So the women, the Spartiate women, were the ones managing the Paroikoi and the Helots and like ruling, kind of not ruling Spartan society. You still had like kings and stuff like that, but the women of Sparta were more free than the women of Athens. Go fucking figure. The authoritarian eugenics hellscape is more based than the liberal democracy. Well, I mean, it's not a liberal democracy. It was more of an oligarchy. Semantics. Semantics. Point is, the Germanics invented democracy. Fuck you. But so, yeah, the Spartans themselves are like bred from, like, they're not just trained from birth, they are specifically bred to be warriors. They are going to be of superior height, muscular density, bone structure. They are going to be the perfect combatants for the Greek style of warfare. Paired with that the Spartiates are a ruling aristocracy, meaning the average Spartan is not only going to be a superior specimen, a superior base platform, they're also going to be bedecked, garbed, and equipped with significantly superior equipment than anyone else. Most warriors in Greece would use some kind of a linen tunic as opposed to bronze, because bronze is super expensive. Your average Spartiate soldier would, if they're not able to get bronze, they'd be able to get the better quality linen tunics. They may not be able to get uh, like the best kind of shield, but they'll get something better than your average combatant. So not only are we talking about something that is specifically bred to be the greatest warrior, we are also talking about something that will be bedecked as a noble. And then you will have elites within that are bedecked and armed even better. The 300 bodyguards of the Spartan king, for instance. So yeah, we're talking about a super elite unit. Which, fun fact, that's why the Spartans never really picked a lot of fights. Oh, sure, if you came at them, they would curb stomp you. If they felt that they needed to leave their homeland to fight, they would do it. But they really, really, really did not want to fight because it was expensive to replace their Spartians. And also, whenever they left their homeland, that gave the Helots a chance to renegotiate labor contracts. Let's go with that. So they rarely, if ever, declared war. Um, so yeah, Spartans, they're cool. They're less jackass than the Athenians. Go figure. Anyway, so you've got the Spartan, the elite bred aristocratic warrior. What is an Unsullied? An Unsullied is a random slave boy that is castrated at the age of 5 and then put through rigorous training and drugged until teenagehood, young adulthood, he is given, based off the show's depiction, because I can't really find any specifics unless I'm misremembering some passages from the books of Unsullied equipment. They get leather armor, they get a relatively small shield, and they get a spear, and then a backup spear, and then a sword. Objectively, the Unsullied is the inferior soldier. Like there is no competition. They are not. They are just random slave boys taken out of the market. Sure, their conditioning may be as bad. I'm not going to say it's going to be worse than the Spartans because the Agogi, but it may have been as bad. They were also drugged, so they don't have to worry about pain in the same sense. But they're castrated at 5. They're not going to have testosterone when they hit puberty. They're going to be smaller, slower, weaker, possibly even more stupid than a Spartiate. They are going to be also worse equipped because they are not nobles. They're not elites. They're equipped with whatever their master can give them, and they are fundamentally a slave soldier. And a slave soldier, you're not going to equip that with the best gear and equipment you can necessarily. They're basically like you would get them because they're good, but cheaper. Because you can probably get better warriors than the Unsullied. It's just they'd be more expensive. And you'd have to, actually equip them. Whereas if an Unsullied dies, oh, boo hoo, I'll go buy a new one. So, no real need to equip those. But that's also going to be an advantage that I'll get into when we get to the battles and the fights and the battles. So in a duel, I mean, like, I don't even need to ask that question. The Sparshit wins hands down. They are a superior specimen. They have better equipment. They are going to win that fight. Absolutely. Even if it's like a named Unsullied, like Grey Worm, fighting against random Laconian warrior, random Spartan guy, he's going to kick his ass. He's going to brutalate him horrendously. Absolutely, objectively. There will be no sense of mercy. There will just be death. That Unsullied will be dead. But let's step this up. Let's get into battles. And here's where things get interesting. Are we talking 20 on 20? Or are we talking proportionality? See, the Spartans would not be able to have a lot of Spartians on demand. They're only being recruited from one city, Sparta. And that city, because most of their men were kept away from their women for most of their lives, did not have the highest of birth rates. That's actually part of why Sparta never really got beyond the Peloponnese, because they simply couldn't produce enough of their Spartiates because they didn't have their men and women commingling enough to produce viable offspring. The fucking Agogi's weird. But so Spartans would be fighting Unsullied in inferior numbers, no matter what. Like, no matter the situation, they would always be fighting Unsullied in inferior number. Now, I don't know quite exactly what the ratio would be. I don't really have any hard numbers on how many warriors Sparta had at its height. I don't really have any hard numbers on how many warriors Sparta had at its low, specifically of Spartians, because they would, any Spartan army would also account for the Helots, the Perioikoids, Scutari, and their allied city states. Whereas, and then Unsullied, we know that Danny got like, I think, 8,000 trained Unsullied, and then I think 6,000 boys from Astapor, but that could have been a good year. That could have been a bad year. We don't really know how many Unsullied they're able to produce consistently. But I like, no matter what, the Spartans would be outnumbered. So can the Spartans win a fight outnumbered against a bunch of, yes. Objectively in a fight, yes. Even if it's 3-1 odds, I'm still betting on the Spartans because they are, again, the superior combatant. Not only that, but a Spartan is also, they're able to think on their own. They're able to operate independent. They're able to think. They're not just groomed and disciplined to be a tool. They are a warrior. They think. They're able to operate and do things. So so if you have a group of Unsullied in a fight, they're just gonna shields up, stand ready to fight. We're gonna maybe like break up or like get into lines or something. They're not gonna think on their feet. Whereas the Spartians would be able to go, okay, you, take a guy, you, break off into pairs, move around, let's do something about this. They would be able to think on their feet and counter. So let's talk about the battles. If we're talking battles, this is when the Unsullied, I think, win for two primary reasons. The first, in pitched combat, these Spartans are reliant on their allies to provide fodder and to provide like scouting and range support and stuff like that because there's not a lot of them. You could get a full army of Unsullied. You can get tens of thousands of Unsullied, and they don't fear death. Spartans, at the end of the day, they will fight on. They will brutally fight you in the name of Ares. They will push and push and push and push to kill you. But objectively, Spartans are capable of fear because they understand that they have an inherent value to their society. If a Spartiate dies, that is at minimum like 20 years of training and breeding lost. And if they did not produce a child with their wife, their genetic lineage is lost. Their contribution to society ends there. And thus, they are capable of feeling fear. So in a battle, where not only the Unsullied would be fielding their full military might, but the fact that they do not feel fear, the fact that they do not step back, the fact that they are a rock in the water and just moving, 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 and circling, and circling, and circling. Step after step, body after body, they would make hills. They would be stepping over hills of their own comrades before they ever took a step back. And the Spartans eventually would lose a man, lose another. Break, 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 break. Shit. I need to pull back. I can't die here. The city needs me. And then they would withdraw. They would disengage. Because fundamentally, the Spartans, while they are immense warriors, while you could compare them to beetles in the world of the insects, beetles eventually lose the bridge to the ants. Anyway, I've been the Shadow of the Hawk. If you enjoyed this video, keep an eye out for some future projects. I kind of like this idea of fictional faction versus the people that inspired them. Could be fun, could be cool. Let's hope to see some good views because I got some other ideas and I'd like to do the ones that get me views because I'm a view whore. Joking aside, thank you very much for watching. If you want to join the conversation, do so down below in the comment section down below. If you want to see some of my horrendous takes, go check me out. I am Umbral Pidgey on Twitter for the next few days and Umbral Raptor when I'm done with that little stupid fun time. I've already said thank you. So I'll just be saying have a good one, everyone. See you next time. Peace.